13 chapters and a lot of patience.
Mm-hmm.
So, Coach K, I've been asking you to do this sit down for so long.
It's been a while.
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say before we start, I asked you to do the sit down because this is my coach, #1 coach in the city.
Interviewed by the best skin in the city, so I guess best and best coming together. That's what's up.
100%. So I find that every time we work out, we definitely have some of the dopest conversations, where we could just, you're yourself, I'm yourself. But I find that a lot of times, especially when I'm having these concerns or thoughts about something that's going on in my own life, in my relationship, you act as, I would say, like a leader, in a sense where you've understood your growth in your own relationship.
Right.
And I think that influenced me a lot, just to understand a man better too, right?
Right. I'm happy about that. It's good.
You're welcome. So today I wanted you to share your journey with your 13 years with your young lady. Young lady? Yeah, young lady. Your wife. Yeah, we are still very young.
We're still very, very young.
Very young. And I think that 13 years with somebody that, people can learn a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you shared a few things with me in respect to your wife.
Mm-hmm.
And it has taught me a lot more about men.
Right.
And the growth of a man.
Right.
So I guess my first question, you could share with people, how long have you guys been together?
So I met her in 2006. Yeah, 2006 was our first actual real interaction.
Mm-hmm.
I had met her before at a couple of parties. She doesn't remember any of those. Her memory is not the best.
But you were eyeing her from before.
But I remember exactly when I first saw her. She was wearing a purple top, cut sleeve. She had her hair long. It was straightened. She had black jeans on. She was wearing no shoes. We were at a basement party. Mm-hmm. She was dancing. And my friends were like, oh, there's these girls from Montreal. She was living in London, Ontario at the time. Mm-hmm. And they were like, oh, these girls from Montreal, a girl from London, Ontario. I was in Toronto at the time. And I was like, okay. And I was dating a girl I was dating at the time. Mm-hmm. But I saw her and it was like, okay, cool. And then I something in my mind told me I think one day I'm going to get to know her. I don't know why that came across my thought, but whatever. And then I met her again later on through a friend of mine. She again doesn't remember. And then I met her at another party. She again doesn't remember. And then I met her at another party. She still doesn't remember. And then it's only when I was in my last year of my last year of college. Mm-hmm. I had just broken up with my ex-girlfriend. And my focus was all right, I'm going to work, make money, get this GPA. I'm trying to get a GPA 4.0. Yeah. I was so close. I was honor student in my class. Mm-hmm. So my main focus was that. All the years of my parents saying, focus on your books, focus on your books. I actually focused on my books this time, and I was getting there. And my friends had gone to Montreal with some other friends, and I knew her sister. I met her sister before. Mm-hmm. And they kept saying to me, they called me, they're like, yo, this is girl you need to meet. Her name is Brianna. Trust me. Mm-hmm. She's it. When we saw her, we said, this is definitely Kareem. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what it is, whatever. And they said, all right, don't worry. We're going to go down in the summertime.
Yeah.
Now, Carabana, people live in Toronto, okay? Mm-hmm. Carabana is a regular thing. Mm-hmm. And I actually missed Carabana that year to go to Montreal. And I said, if I'm missing Carabana to go, this has to be something legit. But I was just going as a friend, whatever. And
well, I know she felt special.
The thing is that she never been to Carabana, so she never understood.
Okay.
She never understood why it's so vital, Mm-hmm. And we met at her friend's place. We actually got in 3:00 in the morning, mm-hmm. And we had briefly chatted because she had just woken up to let us in, whatever. And then that whole weekend we just kind of hung out. We got to know each other a bit, became friends. And I remember she said she liked that I was quiet, mm-hmm. because my friends are a bit stand out loud.
Yeah.
And I'm more of the behind the scenes guy. When we used to go out to parties and clubs and stuff, I was the driver. Okay. And I was just the guy in the background, having a conversation with somebody in the corner about something, but I wasn't the standout person ever. And she said that appealed to her. That, and she said my she said my smile. I didn't smile much those times. I think I just had a lot of stuff going on in my head, so I was at a different period in my life. Yeah. But we became friends and we interacted and stuff, And then she came to visit. I was working at Fido, and she came to visit my store because she was getting her nails done. Her aunt had recommended this place in the mall. So she said, "Oh yeah, Kareem works here. I'm gonna go see where he's at." So I remember she came, but I didn't know it was her. She was behind me. She knocks on the counter, and I'm facing away, and I'm talking to my coworker, and I hear, "Can I get some service?" And I roll my eyes. I'm like, "Oh, man." I turn around, and see her. I said, "Oh hey, what's up?" And the funny part about it was, so she comes, we start talking, we're interacting, and there's a store called Garage. That had girls in the store there that worked there that would talk to me often, whatever. And there's another store, Ibiza, and girls talking from there too. Yeah. And it's almost as though they all saw her come, and they were like, you just see them all kind of stand there. And it was kind of funny, but anyways. So we talk, interact, whatever, and I was like, oh man, I just had my break. And my coworker goes, no.
Do you remember her face at that point in time?
I did.
Okay.
I did. And he's like, no. You have a lunch to go on. I said, no, I already have my break. He goes, no, you have a lunch. You should go. I said, okay, cool. So I got the hint. We went to Eastside Mario's, which is just outside the mall, like in the parking lot. And because she got her nails done, she couldn't eat. So she said, do you mind feeding me my food? I said, yeah, no problem. So I ordered pasta, blah, blah.
Look at her.
and I fed her. So the first question I asked her was, have you ever been to jail?
Jail?
Yeah. And she was like, have you ever been to jail?
And I'm like that too.
And then she said, I have. And I was like, whoa, my thought was, I need to know where you're coming from. Like, do you have some special background I have no idea about? Maybe your parents are ops. I don't know. Like, but we started a conversation from there. She thought it was funny, but she thought it was original, and that's also what kind of caught her. Is that I wasn't gonna ask like, so what do you do for fun? Blah blah blah. We just got into that naturally. So we hung out that day, and then she came down a couple of times. I picked her from the airport, and she came to visit. And I remember from that point, I was just kind of like,
you're feeling her.
I think I'm kind of feeling her, but I didn't want to take the approach of telling her because I learned from other people's mistakes. How's the saying go? A wise man learns from other person's mistakes, or something along the lines.
I know that quote. Can't remember right now.
Yeah, I can't remember it either. And I actually said, what's the wisest course to go about this if I do feel like I have feelings toward her? So I spoke to her sister. Her sister gave me great advice.
Oh wait, can I just go back? Why were you reluctant on letting her know that?
Because I was told in a conversation we had, she doesn't like when guys tell her, especially if they're friends, because if she's not feeling them and now they tell her, oh, I like you, it makes it awkward. So I didn't know for sure. I'm like, I don't know for sure if she's feeling the same way as me. I don't know if this is a real feeling that I'm having or is it just in a moment. But I knew what I started to feel. I started to sense it from her as well because we were interacting on a regular basis, and I thought we can't just be interacting like this and we're just friends. Like maybe there is something else that's going towards it. So when I spoke to her sister said, "Don't tell her. Just play easy." I said, "Okay, cool." Yeah. And I spoke to her best friend, and her best friend said the same thing. She said, "Don't tell her. Biggest mistake you make, tell her that. Don't make it awkward." Okay, cool. Okay.
But to this day, research in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
To this day, I never told her I liked her. To this day, I never told her I liked her. We fast forwarded to I love you, but I never told her, I think I like you. So we just continued from there. At that time, I didn't have long distance on my phone. Thank goodness my mom had Roger's long distance. So I would call, we'd talk on the phone, and when your phone had the Vista phone with the light, so I'd slide the thing across so that you wouldn't see the light on. I was talking to her on the phone and stuff. Well, my mom would see the bill and she's like 833. She sees this number 514, and she's like, okay. And she's like, why is he going to Montreal like kind of often? Like this is kind of weird. So my mom asked me, are you fond of this girl? I'm like, who asked that question? Are you fond of something? But I said, we're just friends, because that's the default answer to your parents. Yeah. We're just friends, it's cool, and then we see where it goes from there. But then from that standpoint, we just started to connect. We started hanging out a bit more, went to mini pub, we chill, whatever.
But this time you're still in Toronto and she's still in Montreal.
She's still in Montreal.
How old are you guys around?
I was 22. We got engaged when I was 23. So
You were 22.
We were dating for like at least 2.5 years before we got married. So then we had a conversation one time where it was kind of like a crossroads, and I was like, do we continue or not? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, I just want to make sure we're on the same page, and everything kind of could continue from there. We had started dating, everything was good. And then her mom was like, not interrogating me, but her mom had questions for me.
For sure.
Because
Mama Dukes has to do her work.
For sure. Because at the time, my energy wasn't what it is now.
Yeah.
It's taken me years to get to where I am as far as my self-confidence, my self-esteem, being comfortable to even speak more publicly and stuff like that. And her mom, she's always been a happy person. Her mom was like, how do you get with this unhappy guy? Like, what's the deal with this? And he was also overweight. Because at the time I was overweight.
This is hard for me to believe, guys.
So I be seeing Coach K's videos. I'm just like, listen, how does this guy just be jumping around all the time?
It was.
That's hard for me to believe.
You know, we had that, and a couple times, you know, we had a conversation about accountability. A couple times, Brandon would say to me, you know, you're always on this like new diet thing, but like, I don't see much of a change. And I was like, whoo.
That hit hard.
Now, if I was the egotistical guy, I would have been like, you could peace out. But I was like, okay, I took it on what it is, because sometimes when you see someone that's good for you, you kind of go, don't take what they're saying as like an insult. They're trying to tell you something and make you more aware.
And you trust her too at this point, for her that you trust that her opinion is coming from good intentions.
Exactly, and the intentions were good. So, so after talking to her mom and then kind of like interacting with her friends and stuff, everything was cool from there. And then it came down to, as it got serious, okay, so who's gonna move? Are you gonna come to Toronto, or am I gonna come to Montreal? Now at the time, I finished school and I was working in my job. I was in HR. I was a manager in HR, and I said,
Can we stop there? What made you feel comfortable to take it to the next level with it?
A lot of it had to do with our beliefs, because we're both Jehovah's Witnesses.
Okay.
So that made it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it made it understandable from a standpoint of, you don't just date somebody to date somebody. Like, some people will date for like years.
Yeah.
But at some point you have to decide, okay, I'm not going to play with this person's emotions. Like, if there's a connection there, and sometimes you might feel like, man, I might have met this person too early. Like, I feel sometimes, we both have said, maybe we met too soon.
Yeah.
Like, early in the game. But I remember when, true story, I broke up with my ex-girlfriend, and I prayed one day, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to be in a situation where I have to like make a choice. I want to meet a person who shares my beliefs, who understands me, same background, similar, stuff. So understands the difficulties, the complexities and stuff. And when I prayed about it, she appeared.
Yeah.
So
you prayed too early, maybe that's
it might have been the thing. It might have been the thing. But you can kind of see, like, even based on your example of your parents.
Yeah.
And your friends' parents. You see what they have and you go, I'd love to have something like that one day. It's just that one day came fairly early, right? But I don't regret it, because I met her at the time I think was the best time for me. I was out of school, I was finished. My parents always like, get in a relationship too early. Like, why you're still in school, whatever. So once I was past that, I actually working a legit job. Now it's like, okay, so you can move into that direction. So I felt comfortable to take it to the next level, because we were both at a place where we felt comfortable with each other, and I knew what I wanted, she knew what she wanted. Did we still know each other very well as far as like individually? Maybe not, but I was willing to learn through her, and she was willing to learn through me, and establish a connection there. Okay.
But shared values and beliefs were the main priority.
Makes a big difference. It really is the game changer, right? If you have a belief, or if your value system, your moral compass is this direction and the other person is here, you can hope that they'll come your way and they'll hope the same thing. But if it doesn't happen, do you still continue with them? Yeah. Regardless of that. But your moral compass and your values have to be strong. If they're strong, then you won't really want to have that happen unless a person really wants to. And I'm a person who operates on, I keep hitting my mic, I'm a person who operates on, I want you to do this because you want to, not because I want you to. Because if it's a forced thing, then it's not genuine. And we both genuinely saw how we felt about each other and expressed that, and how we were able to move in that direction. So fast forward from then, so now we're deciding, okay, so who's gonna go, whatever. And she's not a person who likes movement. She moved from Jamaica to London, Ontario to Montreal.
Yeah.
And she was only planning to be in Montreal for like a couple of years, year or two, and then she never moved.
The affordable living, man.
She just ended up staying. She ended up staying with family, friends, staying with friends, and she started to build herself from there. And when I met her, we both met at a time we were both figuring each other out.
Yeah.
As far as like me trying to figure me out, what do I want? Do I want to stay in Toronto? Is this environment for me? Is it helping me to be a better person? Is it conducive to my goals? What are my goals exactly? Things like that. And I think she might have been thinking along the same lines too. It's just that she never had a conversation with somebody about it. We talked about it briefly, but we kind of took it from there. And then, true story, we did rock, paper, scissors, and I lost. When I told my father this, he was like, "You did what?"
Rock, paper, scissors?
Rock, paper, scissors, and decided this. And I said, yeah. And I knew that it wasn't like I love her in a lustful, desirable way. It was like, I see her as being future.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see that when you're young because you still have a lot of life to live, but there are things about her.
You also have a lot of growing to do
for
too,
sure,
right?
for sure. And there are things I saw about her that made me go, you know what? It would be really, really good for me because she has put things in my perspective or in view that's made me go, oh, you know what? I never thought of that. Oh, I never thought of that. And when a person can like check you on certain things and show you certain things that maybe you haven't seen, that's a person you want to keep close to you, whether they're your friend or maybe they turn out to be your companion. So it just so happened that she was my friend first and then became my companion.
Do you think that it's important to be friends before getting into a relationship?
1000%. I think the main problem, the main challenge, I'll say challenge. The main challenge that a lot of people have today, they're not friends. Yeah. They jump from like, I meet you on Tinder, we're dating. It's like bang, bang, bang. And they give things up way too soon. Yeah. It's like, you know, people would knock on me for be like, oh, you never slept with her? And I said, nah, we got married first. Then I slept with her because...
You did?
Yeah, man, that's part...
news from me. Look at me. Okay.
Because that part of the relationship is very sacred.
Yeah, 100%.
In my view, it's very sacred because you have a connection with somebody. You can't just give it all away to anybody. People who do this, it's like, you know, I can give away information regarding training, but I'm not gonna give like the things that are reserved for clientele. Yeah. The client connection that I have, like with you, I'm not gonna give that away to just random people because you invested your time and things like that. So it's a whole different story. So when it came to that level, like, you know, we patiently waited, which was cool. It worked out better because my experience was her first and her experience was my first, and we understand each other. We do the dance together, so it's cool. It's good. So in deciding all those things and understanding that when I decided to move, it was a difficult thing to do, and the transition and the change took a lot of like mental, like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm moving, not just for her but for myself, and I have to keep reminding myself, this is for me. This is for me to grow. And you know, sometimes you take a plant and you have it in soil, and the soil is good, it's cool, it's whatever. But sometimes the soil gets a little bit stale. Yeah. So the plant grows and it grows only so far. And then you take that plant out, put some new soil in a new pot, new environment, and all of a sudden it's shooting branches like crazy. Yeah. And I feel like that was the key for me. I needed to be in a different soil, different environment to really kind of like elevate and grow and flourish. And just to have her watering me was great. And it made everything even better. So just that connection, you know, like having a spiritual connection, you know, having that emotional connection with a person and really getting to understand each other, didn't mean it didn't come with difficulties, hence the title, 13 years, a lot of patience, because it does require a lot of patience, but you have to be willing to invest in that for yourself to see, you know, where you can take things. And if it didn't work out, I would have been like, okay, cool, the experience was there, fine. But I need to know that it wasn't going to work out before I decided to marry her, because I'm not about...
You needed to know if it was going to work out before you decided to marry her, which you still can't figure that out. I understand what you're saying.
You know what I mean? You still don't know if it is, because every time you hit every season comes with a different storm. So you're like, all right, this season, what's the storm going to be? This season, what's the storm going to be? Okay, you get through this storm, and then you have to prepare for this one. So, how you respond to this storm helps you to prepare for that storm.
But do you feel that for you as a man, because of how she responded to the storms before you guys got married, what really made you more confident in your decision to marry her?
100%.
Okay.
100%. It makes a big difference. And I know, like, one of the things that really attracted me about her was that she's super family oriented. It's her gift, and I guess you can say a curse in a way. But it's something that I really liked about her is that I was like, man, she's really about her mom and her dad and stuff. And even though their relationship didn't really work out, she's a everybody friendly type of person. Like, everybody meets her, they all like her.
Yes, I like
you know what I mean? Like there's not one person that has ever there's not one person that has ever met her that has said, I'm not feeling her.
Yeah. Not
one person. And I have friends who have dated girls who they come around and you're right away, you're like, yo, I don't know about this girl. And I would never want to have that kind of energy around me.
Yeah.
Especially as I got to learn more about myself. Like, you need a person who's gonna help you take the bricks. Every day is a brick, and take those bricks and build yourself up.
Yeah.
So in the 13 years that we've been married, and even before that, let's say 16 years in total, that's a lot of bricks. And some of them had to be removed, some had to be replaced. You know, some of them had to be like tripled up here and there. And some things broke down, but it didn't mean that it would broke down to be destroyed. It just meant, oh, there's a weakening in this wall here, or in this staff. We need to take this off and start again. So when you decide to marry her, right? And you guys married before you moved in, or you moved in before you married? Married first.
Married first.
Yeah.
So you married in Toronto or here?
Here.
Okay, you married here.
Yeah.
And then after you guys moved in. So you guys never lived together before?
Nah.
So could you share that experience with me? Because some people will think differently. Like, I think, like, I'd rather move in with the person first to see, but then after, some people will be like, that would push you probably further away from marriage. So what were some of the challenges with moving in with her and starting you guys' union together?
So one of the things that we aimed to do before we got married was, hence why moving was important, was spend time with her in her space. So that I understood how she did things. And she was able to see how I did things. So when I moved, I was staying at her friend's house at first, and then we got our house, and I was living there first for a couple of months until she moved in. So I was able to establish, you know, things based on what I learned to do, how our home was run before she came in. But there's things that she like implemented right away, so it was easy transition. But it still was difficult because now, instead of you being your space, you come home, you leave things wherever you want, you do your thing. Now you have to be mindful of another person. So that was a big adjustment. Really just the presence of a person being there is different. I mean, like, again, when you're dating somebody, like, you go home, they go home. That's it. When you're married, you go to the same place. So there's no like, all right, peace out, I'm gonna go over here, you're gonna go over here. Like, you might go separate places in the house, but you still come together. You still go to bed in the same bed, you know, unless you guys are fighting. But you still go to bed in the same bed, you're still in the same kitchen, still sitting on the same couch.
It's different. It's
a whole different setup. So even just to speak on that for a second, when about being married, like, I know that there's an attitude of, with some people, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper. And I'm here to tell everybody, especially for men,
it's a commitment, man.
It's a commitment, but it's a different type of feeling. It's like, you could be a contract worker and working for a company for 10, 15 years, and it's like, oh, I'm a contract worker. At the end of the day, if that company says I'm gonna cut the contract, they cut the contract. When now you are given an office with your name on the door, and you're given a contract, and you are now a parking space for you, and you sign the dotted line as, I'm committed to this company. The feeling now is different because now it's like you own part of the company. So it's not like I own her or she owns me. There's an ownership of each other, but there's an ownership of that responsibility that is different compared to when you're dating somebody, or even when you live in common law. Now, a person in common law might see this and say, nah, it's not the same, it's different. But I assure you, you put a ring on that woman's finger and you say, I do, The feeling you have now is different. Your level of protection is different.
Yeah.
So when we got married, we were dating, me protecting her was, okay, I'm her boyfriend. When we got married, it was like, no, you can't violate her, you can't disrespect her, that's not gonna happen because she is me and I'm her.
Yeah.
And she felt the exact same way. And when the Bible speaks about two becoming one flesh, you feel things, you know, like she has her period, I feel it. It's kind of weird. It sounds funny. It sounds funny. It sounds funny, but I'm telling you.
I hear married couples say
when my stomach starts to get a little gassy, I'm like, what's going on? And I call her, I'm like, you good? Oh, and I say, go home, and I say, okay. But that's after years of that's when you really are connected with someone.
Yeah, spirits connect.
And when everything comes together, it makes the biggest difference. So a person saying that a marriage is a piece of paper, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
But aside from that, going back a little bit, like the biggest adjustment was really just now having to adjust my time for her and her the same. Like I would get up, go to the gym, work out, whatever, go to work, do my thing, blah, 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 come home, we'd hang out, whatever not. But now when you're married, I can't just get up and leave. And that's what we did in the beginning. Like she would go to her friend's house or I would go to the gym, wouldn't say a word. So now nighttime I'm calling her, I'm like, yo, where are you? Oh, I'm just over here. And I'm like, yeah, let me know.
Still living single?
And I would do the same thing. And then she called me, where are you? Oh, I just went out here. But I didn't tell her, right? Now, even as I'm leaving the gym, I'm texting her and saying, oh, I'm on my way home. Oh, I'm going to stop here to get this, whatever. Do you need something? Or she'll go out somewhere and she'll remind me she's going somewhere. Now, again, granted her memories not
But you
always
see,
the best.
some people, like, do you feel, because I don't feel, some people will feel like, oh, that's too codependent. But I'm not in a marriage, but I don't feel that is codependent.
No.
And the reason why I don't feel that's codependent is because you're two becoming one. That doesn't mean that you have to be just one way of thinking.
Right.
It means that you guys are operating on one agenda, one accord.
For sure.
You know, with two, and it's how do you operate on one accord with two people? That's what's the most challenging thing about it. You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So how do you feel when people say like, you know, that's too, you know, codependent and blah, blah, blah?
They don't understand music.
Okay, elaborate.
So when you harmonize sound, it sounds way better than just a single note. If I played a song in just one note alone,
It's boring.
it's boring. If I thought the exact same way as her all the time, it's boring. Now if I come with a thought and she comes with a thought and we bring it together and make it one sound that harmonizes and complements each other, now it's like, I'm able to hear things differently and she's able to hear things differently. Because I'm showing her, well, this is how this sounds to me. And she says, well, this is what I'm hearing. Okay, well, let's put it together and let's see how it sounds together.
Yeah.
So now it's not just going to be one thing. So the codependent thought, I understand where that comes from. And I think that a lot of that stems from people feeling like, well, I need to be independent from a person. I don't want them to hold me. And Beyonce said I better be this. I get that. I get all that stuff, which is okay.
Single ladies.
Which is okay. But you probably ask Beyonce now, and she'll tell you her relationship with Jay-Z is totally different.
100%.
Because she's not single. They've been married for a number of years. They make their own song. So everyone relationship, every marriage has its own song, has its own theme music, I guess you can say. And sometimes there's different theme music for different scenarios, different situations. We've just created different songs for different situations.
Cool.
But the way she sings it, or the way I sing it, or the way that she plays this note and I play this note is gonna be different. But when you put them together, it's like, I understand how this comes together now.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to really try to figure out. So it's not a matter of
trying to figure out how to get the sounds to harmonize.
How to get the sounds to harmonize. Yeah. It's not a matter of it being, well, I don't want them to tell me what to do because that's being the codependent, or she doesn't need to know what I'm doing because blah blah blah. It's too much control. It's not control. If this person is you, wouldn't you want to know where they are? Or wouldn't you want to know where that person is? So if that person's asking you, there's something wrong with that.
And I find it's just mutual respect.
Yeah, and to me, if your attitude and your energy is leaning towards that direction, you have to ask yourself the question: do you trust them? Do you respect them? But mainly it's a trust thing. Do you trust this person?
Yeah.
Right? And I'll be honest. In the beginning of our marriage, my wife told me, "I love you. Do I trust you 100%?" As yet, no. because there are some things that she needs to see, but also too.
Women need reassurance.
For sure, and in her
I'm just gonna pick up where we left off.
Yeah,
because the camera cut. Do you remember where we picked up where we left off?
We were discussing about harmonizing sound. Well, I'm going to even just go back on that. It's not a codependency issue. Oh, we're talking about the things that need to be had.
Yeah.
If you don't trust a person, as I'm mentioning, my wife at first didn't trust me. Her experience, based on what she saw, I think even with her parents, other people that she knows in her family, other friends of hers, or other situations she's seen, she had a trust issue.
Yeah.
And it's not her fault that she would have that at first. So it was up to me to assure her, what you're getting is me. Were there situations where I might have put myself in a compromising situation that would make her then go, see, I told you so?
Yeah.
Yes, but those are things we addressed from the jump, to be like, listen, here's the situation, here's the deal. But it's never gone anywhere beyond that. My goal, my focus was always to, okay, you don't trust me now? Cool, I'm gonna show you, you can trust me. I have a plan to start this business, start this brand, I'm gonna show you, you can trust me that I'm gonna carry this out.
Yeah.
With your help or without, but I'm gonna do it. And when she started to see that, that's what made her feel like, okay, my husband, he's saying these things, he's carrying it out. I'm a person who's all about action. I used to be a guy who would just talk and nothing would be carried out.
At least you can admit that now.
I can say it. I say it and say, oh man, I would do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that.
Bro.
And then it wouldn't happen. Because I would go for the things that were easier. Now I gravitate towards the things that are more challenging. Because I know that this challenging situation is going to teach me something about me that I can now apply in my life that's going to help me with her.
Yeah.
So patience is something that I've always been a patient guy, but I've had to relearn and reinforce that. Because on a whole different level.
But that patience came, because you said you had to really learn that. But because you said that the first thing that was maybe a challenge was adjusting times. Her leaving, you not knowing, we have to work on that. But what was another very big issue in your relationship that was a challenge, but you had to learn patience through?
Communication.
Communication.
Okay. Big time.
I think that is everybody.
It is everyone I talk to, everyone married. Listen, if you're married out there and you listen to this, communication probably number one on your list, maybe number two. It is big. And the reason why is because our communication styles were different. Yeah. She is the type that she'll tell you how she feels, and then if you don't assure her that you understand, here we are talking about assurance again. If you don't assure her that she understands, she re-explains it. Yeah. Then she re-explains it again. And even if I go, okay, cool, and I get it, I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I understand, but I'm not giving her the reassurance that I understand. Me just saying, okay, cool, or I understand, is not enough for her. Yeah. Doesn't make her demanding. It just means that she needs to hear me say, okay, so what you're saying is X, Y, Z. And when I get that, she feels now, okay, he gets it. Yeah. Me, I'm a person that goes based on action. So if I tell you something and you go, okay, and then I see you don't do it, then I'm like, well, clearly you weren't listening to me because I said to do this, or I wanted you to do this. And instead of me going and addressing it and saying, but I told you to do this, I simply go, all right, cool, and I walk away and I retract. And I shut down completely. But I've learned over time, it's not going to help if I do that. Because it's always going to be like, I send a shot, I retract, she sends a shot, it goes back and forth, instead of anything really penetrating and going through.
But what was the moment where you had to stop and say, okay, I gotta figure out how this communication thing is gonna work so we could create, a more, less, I wouldn't say that you guys argue like the relationship, but a less combative, I guess, situations when it comes to communication?
I mean, at some point you can't be up so late at night. I want to sleep, and I have a hard time sleeping. She can sleep easily, and when the conversation would come, it'd be at 12, 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, So you go, okay, how do you resolve this? But I also had to look at myself and go, am I being stubborn by not giving her what it is that she needs? Or is it that I think she's just being excessive and I'm not going to give her what she wants? And I really had to put at first, what she needs is this, as opposed to what she wants. What she wants could be anything. What she needs that's going to help her to function. If my goal is if in my mind I'm like, all right, so for her to be a better person or for her to function better for me, she needs this from me, and I gotta change something. Yeah. And when I came to that conclusion, that's when everything started to be more okay. And I had to take away some of the things she might say to me or the way we'd interact. Take away maybe like a passive aggressiveness that she might have had on something and go, listen to what she's trying to tell you. Listen to the words she's trying to tell you. Don't ignore the tone. And that actually helped me a lot even in my job because, you know, sometimes you interact with clients and they get a certain way and your natural reaction is go, yo, what are you doing, you know? Yeah. And then I had to just silence that and go, okay, cool. So it took a lot for me to go and even ask her, and because we live with her mom, to ask, you know, like, tell me something that I can work on. Like, what do you observe that I can work on? Okay. And she would tell me. Yeah. And she would tell me, you know, let me give it some thought. Okay, cool. And then she would tell me. And once, again, because I'm a person of action, you tell me something.
How many years, though, did it take for you to get to that point in asking her?
We had a lot of, we had some challenges. They weren't like major, but they were like some things here, like some storms that were like, man, there's a leak going on in here. But probably in this, 2016 was year 6. 2016, I went to a friend's, I was going to a friend's wedding and we had a conversation about some things. But I said, I need her to listen to what I'm saying. And when I communicated with her and she gave me what it is that I needed, which was take it in and act on something, I said, you have to do the same thing. Yeah. If you now got what you need, you got to give her what she needs. And that changed a lot of things for us. So a lot of moments where things kind of change. And a lot of it came from conversations from different people. I'm fortunate to have like older contemporaries in my life that I can ask questions to, like my uncle, a good friend of mine who is like an uncle to me. I've had conversations with my parents, but not to that degree. Yeah. And other friends as well. Like we talked about certain things, but my friends were kind of going through the same situation, and they're all the same age, so they don't know how to respond to the same things either. So asking them wasn't like the best thing. It's just like I can go to them and vent. But then I thought to myself, venting's not really gonna help the situation out. You have to vent to the person who you have the issue with. Yeah. And if she's your best friend, tell your best friend, well, how you feeling? Yeah. And let her respond, and you guys have an interaction that doesn't turn into an argument. And if it does, think about why is now becoming an argument? Well, because now you're lacking what you need and she's lacking what she needs.
Before when you guys would argue when there was like poor communication, do you find that it was more of the who's right or who's wrong? Like,
yes.
When did you get to the space where you're just like, we're arguing, but I'm contributing maybe to this too as well?
It's hard to pinpoint when or when specific time, but I'm a person who sits back and takes in things and goes, let me digest this for a moment. So I need time, space away to kind of just think about it, recall it, and go, okay, yeah, you know what, maybe this might have been the wrong thing. And it's always at that time is when something or someone says something to me and makes me go, you know what, you're right. And I remember it's not a situation it was a situation with us, well, that affected us, but her mom living with us, and even like her dad at the time when he was alive, she wanted him to move in. And I was like, man, I'm not trying to do this right now. But I didn't want to say it to her because I was just like, okay. Yeah. And I remember a friend of ours coming over and he was going through some details of some things of how we can make it work. And he kept saying to me, but you could say no. You could say no. But me trying to appease everybody, I was like, okay, yeah. And it was burning me inside. And then some friends of mine said, oh, let's have a conversation because you're not your normal self. We had a conversation, man, and I broke down, like, frustrated. And they were like, wow, what's happening, whatever. And I said, you know, this is happening and this. And they're like, oh, you just gotta talk to her. You gotta tell her this is how you feel. Now,
we're internalizing it.
Because they're old school, they were like, you gotta shut this down now. You gotta do this. You gotta be boom. You're the head of the house and whatever. And I thought, okay, but I'm a person who...
Too combative.
I looked at reflected my parents' example. My dad was never like that. Yeah. My dad had his point. My mom had her point. My mom was a more quieter person. She's kind of like me. But they met in the middle all the time. And even if they didn't, I didn't see when they didn't meet in the middle. But I saw when they did, and I'm like, okay. So I took what they said and I looked at their example and I was like, how do I mesh the two together? So we had a conversation and it was kind of like rough for a bit, but then some interaction that she had with friends and her family, they were like, no, he's priority. So that made her realize, I gotta start putting my husband as number one.
Yeah.
And not assume that he's okay if this person comes first because he knows I love him, you know? And so that really made the difference from that standpoint. But it took a public discourse that I was listening to, and one explanation, it was based on the Bible, and one explanation was given was the Apostle Paul had a lot of difficulties, but he didn't allow his difficulties to get in the way of helping other people. Yeah. And he actually was able to use his struggles to help someone else. Or he was fortunate to go, I have the ability to do this to benefit this person who might not be as fortunate. Yeah. And I sat there, I thought about it, and I said, wow. Because the question was then asked, like, is there something that you're able to do for somebody that it may not be as fortunate or not in the position to do what you're doing, that you can do for them, that's going to be a benefit to them? And then I thought about it and I said, you know what, as much as I would love to have my space be just me and my wife, my mother-in-law being here, what are the benefits of her being here? Yeah. So now it became a shift of perspective. How is this situation good for us? Yeah. And when I saw that and I was like, oh, you know what, Kareem, you're in a position to do this for somebody who not that they can't do it, but if they did the opposite, it might put them in a bad spot. Can you let go of what you're feeling in order to benefit this person? And when I did that, everything changed. Even my relationship with my mother-in-law.
And I think it changes too, because in a relationships you have, it's a selfless act.
100%.
You know, and if two people could both be selfless in it, you could have a peaceful relationship.
100%.
But I find a lot of times, like based on my observation and what I heard and what people tell me, is that the ego mainly is what affects the relationship. Yeah. It's the unhealed wounds that affects the relationships. Yeah. And I find you could still have unhealed wounds and still enter into something. Because your unhealed wounds doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're unkind.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? But it's just understanding that maybe my husband or my wife, this is something that they have. So how do I meet their needs to help them get through this moment at the time, you know?
Yeah. So I know that when I got to understanding that, that's when I was able to sit back and go, okay, let's see what we're working with here for myself. And when I did that, everything changed. So even my relationship with her changed because I was able to clearly tell her what I did or what it is that changed for me. And now our conversation became different. Now it became a matter of, okay, how can I then assure Kareem that he's number one, I'm going to help him. Because he's helping me with this. How can I help him so that we can continue in this good cycle of things as opposed to the opposite? And that really was the change. That was some years back, but that really was the change. It really made the big transition. But listen, man, marriage has its ups and downs. It has a lot of downs, a lot of like midways where the road is rough and you're like, what is going on here? But once you know how the person drives, sometimes it's a matter of you kind of going, you know what, let's switch seats and you take the wheel. Yeah. And it doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't make you less of a leader, especially as a man. It just means that maybe your wife has a better handling of this road, whereas you are good with handling these roads. She can also handle this, and that's a real like pilot co-pilot relationship, as opposed to being like, you don't touch the wheel at all. That's not your job. Essentially, you're able to see how that person can help you. Because what happens if we're driving on the road and I get tired and she never drives?
She'll take the wheel.
She'll take the wheel and say, listen, honey, let me take over for you. You know, I'll help you out for a bit. And even if it's for an hour, 2 hours, and then I continue to drive from there, at least she gives me enough time to rest so that I can be refreshed, so I can continue and keep us. And at the end of the day,
especially that if you are, I believe in the men are the leaders, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes the leaders need a break. Sure. Because if you don't give them time to, you know, decompress,
sure,
how are they going to get back to their proper leadership roles, right? So a lot of times, like you said in the analogy with changing, like switching seats, but when you switch seats and you just maintain the respect, I don't think anybody will feel demasculated or too empowered as a woman to, you know what I'm saying? Like I find that there's just this gender war in relationships. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like that if you just maintain a level of respect.
And where the challenge lies today is that people are not willing to give up their seat.
Yeah.
So they would rather let the car crash, or the plane crash, or the train crash, than give up their seat and just say, listen, you take the wheel for a second, I'm getting kind of drowsy, can you do this for me? Or you can handle this road better because you can see in the dark better, can you do this? Okay, cool. And you guys have better understanding. Yeah. It doesn't make you weak. So I've come to learn in a lot of ways. My wife she is strong in a lot of ways. Like she's very, how can I put it? Her dad passed away, and I made the video, the video for him, like his slideshow, whatever. And at the funeral, I couldn't watch it. I said, we were on Zoom. I couldn't watch it. I was like, nope. And I felt like, wow, you know. She just sat there smiling like, oh, he's so cute, huh? She just has that resolve about her. But in some ways, she thinks she's cold. I think it's something to do with her just being all together. But she doesn't allow those things to get to her. Yeah. Whereas that right away is like emotional trigger for me. I'm like, oh man, sadness.
But so that's how you guys maintain that balance.
That's where we balance it out. So if there was a situation where like I might be feeling kind of like hurt or like emotionally not unstable, but just something that affected me in a certain way, she can then step in and go, all right, let me just take over and And once we know each other's how we work, it makes a world of a difference. Yeah. So it makes me curious to see how the next 13 years will be. Will it be new things that I'll learn, or will it be a carryover of things to be even better? Because it was good at first, and then it had a little here, and then it got better, and then it had a little here, and there's always that kind of like up and down. But I feel like now it's less of an up and down, it's more of like a
steady climb.
We're steady, we're going, and it's not a steady going down, it's more of a steady going up. And the unfortunate thing is that there are a lot of relationships out there that are going on a decline. They don't even realize that they're gradually gonna hit the ground soon.
But you see, it's better to be just going steady straight, but eventually, hopefully it moves up as we get older, you know?
Yeah.
And I hope in the next 13 years, I'll be here to see it.
For sure. But I mean, like, I would never trade her for anybody. Doesn't matter how much she leaves stuff, like, this morning I broke a hanger. Why? She left a hanger on the door, and I'm walking through, and she's like, "Did I leave that there?" I'm like, "Yeah, you did." Whereas before I might have been mad, I might have thrown the hanger, but I say it as, you know what, man, my wife she's what she is. She's a gem. But I wouldn't trade her for anybody. She has helped me to grow into the person I am today. And I'll tell you this one thing. I know we're running out of battery time, but when I moved here, and I was trying to find work, one thing she didn't do is put me down at all. She didn't say, how are you gonna come here and not have a job? You're supposed to take care of me. None of that. She was like, he will figure it out, and I will support him, and I'll help him. She didn't always say it, but I knew that's what she felt. So, quick story. I started my business. I'm trying to get a grant.
I love this story. I heard it before.
And a person that we know had said, listen, let me help. I was used to helping with my business plan. He said, listen, let me give you the money. Well, how much money are you applying for? I tell him how much. Okay, let me give you the money, and when you get the grant, whatever, like, we'll work it out. I said, okay, cool. So I'm like, wow. So right away I tell her, and here's the point about, like, you have sight to see certain things, and your partner sees things that you don't know, or maybe they have knowledge of something that you're not aware of. So I tell her this, and she goes, wow. She didn't shoot it down right away. She just simply said, listen, it's your decision, your choice, but I'm just saying, here's the situation, just be aware of this. And I said, okay, cool. But in my head, I'm thinking, money, this is what happened. It's going to help me to do this, do that, do that. So, follow up now, I go to the person's office, we sit down and talk, and the person tells me, basically, that they have no trust or confidence in my abilities to do this. But they said it in a kind of a rude way. I won't repeat on this. And I was like, oh, okay. Now, the me at that point might have been like, maybe they're right, question myself, doubt, and I was just giving up altogether. But I walked out of that office and I was like, no, ain't no way someone's gonna tell me that. So he called her on the phone, because we were in his office, called her on the phone and said, write your friend a check, please. Write your friend a check. I was like, oh, okay. So I leave the office, I go and sit in my car, I walk right by her. She's in the office, she's looking at me in my face. I didn't even look at her once. I walk straight in the car, I go to the car, sit in the car for a second. maybe counting 10 seconds, send him a text message and say, you know what, it's okay, man, I'll do this myself.
Yeah.
So I call her, I said, don't write the check. She goes, I didn't. Cool. I said, I'll pick you up later. She comes home, we sit down, we talk. She goes, listen to me. I believe in you. I believe in your abilities to make this work. You're committed, you're a dedicated person to making this happen, and I know you want to do this not just for yourself, but you want to do this for me, and do this for our family. I trust you. She had some funds on reserve. She said, use this. I got you. That was the battery that went in my back, in my charger, that made me just go. And let me tell you, men out there, please understand this. If you have a woman, and even this is also to women too, you have a woman out there that is the battery in your back, you do not take those batteries and throw them out. They are rechargeable.
Yeah, they definitely are rechargeable.
They are rechargeable. And the way that they recharge, you have to charge them up. You have to do what you say you're going to do, and you charge them up. And they will gladly go back into your back and be the motivation behind what you do.
100%.
And for ladies out there, wives out there, if you see your man has an idea, he has something, don't shoot down what he's doing. Be the batteries that he needs to be in his back, because there's no greater confidence a man will have, I believe, than when his wife is confident in him to do something. Your parents will tell you, oh, you're good at this. Your friends will tell you you're good at this. Your teachers, your coaches, whoever, it doesn't matter. When the person who is your other flesh, your spouse, tells you, I believe in you, you can do anything in the world. You have the power to do anything you want, because that one person who's the closest to you tells you you can. Ladies, don't deny telling your man something, and men, don't deny your woman of letting them charge you up and recharge them and charge each other. And that's how you stay united as a family.
And I think that we will leave on that note. I could talk about this for another 2-3 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like, we could go for a while.
Yeah.
But I just want to say thank you for sitting down.
Of course.
I wanted to ask a question in the end about what would you tell, because we're millennials, right? That's the generation I'm targeting, because I think our generation is very important for the ones coming behind and the ones before us. We're like the middle child, as J. Cole said. But you said it already to millennials. You know, I think we struggle a lot in relationships because we are that generation that played in the park, and we are that generation that knows a lot about social media.
Right.
So we know the old and the new, but I think what you said is answers the question. I think that would be the best response for millennial men, especially men in relationships and marriages. So thank you for that, Coach K.
You're very welcome.
Coach K, you're going to be back again for another conversation.
Whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready.
All right, we're out. Peace.